Excellent. Welcome everyone to our fall development series. This is part 3. We're going to be talking about the set piece today. So scrum, line out, maul, basically. Fortunately, we've got Ross on, so my scrum conversations will be critiqued appropriately. The four areas. Ross is in a bar, so he's going to type a lot about scrums today. The four areas we're going to talk about: restart kicks, scrum lineout, and maul. This is not going to be a fully in-depth presentation on all the tricks and tips of the scrum, and rather it's going to be focusing on the bigger picture and kind of overall things that we can catch. So first, restart kicks. We've got 3 different types: the kickoff, the 22-meter dropout, and then the goal line dropout. So everybody can drop in the chat. We got a little bit of participation here. What is the correct sanction for a player in front of their kicker at a kickoff? So kickoff team, player in front. What is our sanction for that? There is no critiques for wrong answers because the recording won't show who said what. So drop it in there just so I can have answers to read. Excellent. So we have some free kick again, or scrum, re-kick. It's just scrum. In sevens, it is a free kick. Everything's a free kick in sevens. It's just a scrum. All right, goal line dropout that goes directly into touch. What is our sanction? You go to goal line dropout, goes directly into touch. I know, this is a fun one. Line out on the 5-meter, scrum 5, or kick again. Yes. So you've got the options. It's the same as if a 22 goes directly into touch. You can have a re-kick, or a kickoff goes directly into touch. You can have that scrum. Obviously, you can't have the scrum at the mark because the mark's an in goal, or the line out on the 5. All right, number 3. Kickoff goes into in goal, is made dead without delay by a defender. Kicking off, rolls into in goal, defender grounds it, makes it dead. Scrum at the 50, or re-kick. Cool. Yes. Yep. You can have the scrum, or you can have the re-kick. There's a point for this. The more fun is just looking at what these options are. All right. What about a drop goal attempt that goes into in goal and then is grounded by a defender? Oh, quick on that one. Yeah, 22. It's the one rogue thing that is still a 22-meter dropout. And then the opponent crossing the sanction line before it's kicked. So if you've got a 22-meter dropout and an opponent crosses the 22-meter line before the attacking team gets a chance to kick, what is our sanction there? It's a pretty rogue one, not gonna lie. What is our sanction if your opponent crosses before the ball is kicked? No wrong answers. Everyone pulling out their law book, just go off what the top of it happens in your game. What are you calling?
I say offsides.
Honestly, Rod, I would also be there. I would have been like, no, you can't cross the line, penalty. It is a free kick. It's a fun fact. The fun fact. So I know it's weird. So the moral of this story is there is a number of restart kicks and they all have their own weird laws and their weird sanctions. So the answer with restart kicks is how can you get the best outcome? You've got to go to the law book and you've really just got to memorize what's in there, because these are going to be the one area that you can be technical in, because a restart is very technical area. So we just had a couple of examples here, but they do get weirder and weirder as you keep reading them. And I didn't even try to take the hardest ones. So that's kind of all I've got on restart kicks, is just go to the law and go make sure you're schooled so that when you have an opponent who crosses the 22-meter before the ball is even kicked, you know to free kick them, which seems weird, but here we are. Awesome. So that was easy, restart kicks. Next thing we're going to talk about is the scrum. Like I said at the start of the call, we're not going to go deep into detail with the scrum. Rather, we're just focusing on the big picture. So when you go to a scrum, what is the one thing you can control in a scrum? So you can either drop that in the chat or you can unmute and just tell me what's the one thing you can control in the scrum.
The push.
Setup and cadence.
The setup, exactly. You can control how you say your cadence and how you set up the scrum. You can't control anything the players are going to do afterward.
Okay.
So what I put out here is, this is my mental checklist when I go through a scrum. So this is how my brain works, making the mark. All right, are my hookers to the left? Do I have good spacing? What's good spacing? Honestly, I let the teams dictate what good spacing is, because if they set in and I try to make them closer and I try to make them further, I'm almost trying to make more issues for myself. So for me, I let the team set up. If they tell me they're too far away, I'm like, cool, let's move closer. But if you don't tell me you're too far away, that's fine. I look at all the shoulders of the front row. So I make sure that when people are binding up, their shoulders not tucked under, which can indicate that they're already going to be on an angle. So I make sure I've got 6 shoulders on one side, 6 shoulders on the other. That's when I say crouch. So on crouch, I take a second and I make sure everybody's feet get their little time to settle. Make sure that the shoulders I checked are still out. And I make a middle mental line in the scrum. So where my mark was when the players set, I mentally am like, there's a middle line. That allows me to dictate when I go to the next stage if somebody is overleaning that mental line that I've made. So crouch, shoulders, everybody's stable. Take a breath, bind, making sure the props are binding up on the back of the jersey. Everybody is talking, so if you want to untalk, you can unmute. I make sure the binds are on the back of the jersey, and make sure that you allow the props time to reset their feet. So you're going to have all of your props kind of stepping back, resetting, making sure that they can hold their weight. You don't want to continue on until that's done. And that's another time while that's happening, I make sure that my 8s are bound in. I tend to have a pretty slow cadence. We have a clip later that shows you exactly all of these things. So make sure you take that breath, let those players set up. And then on the set, that's when I'm going to do my mental check on the body shape, because if the scrum goes down on the set, 9 times out of 10, you can reset, especially at the club level game. Just reset, especially if you're not sure. But sometimes, and I think we have a clip of it where it's a really good example, the one prop's body shape will tell me everything I need to know. And I know that I've got a good setup before then, so I know that they're just under pressure. So that's my little mental checklist in the scrum. Now, I'm going to give everybody a second to go to Advantage, because I actually just made a playlist in Advantage, similar to what Chris and I did on the call on Tuesday, if you guys were on the all referee call. And all of our clips for the meeting are in that folder. So I will be showing them on here, but you can also go on your own and open up advantage. And I don't know why that doesn't work. Cool. So, called TRRA set piece webinar. Let you guys log in right now. So first one we're gonna look at is Scrum, legal dominance, and setup.
Harvard's pack into the middle of the field. Really nice attacking platform. They can go both sides. They have a Yatakan back in that 8 position, and she is a hard carrier. It's going to force a big tackle coming through, or else she'll just take off and have a lot of field to work with. Big.
So from this clip, what's really awesome, it's me wrapping down, that's not the awesome part, is
really
we've got
nice
the crouch.
Platform. They can go both sides.
Everybody's kind of settled. Excellent.
They have a Yatakan back in that 8 position, and she is a hard carrier.
So what you see here is they get their arms up. Great. Then there's the moment that they're all putting their feet back.
Back in that.
So, right, prop adjusting feet, prop adjusting feet. Gotta wait for the far side, prop adjusting feet. Okay. And on the set together, we've got another instance where they set and settle. Ball is in. And can someone tell me what happens when the ball goes into the scrum?
White dominates.
Yes, yes. Black gets absolutely annihilated. That is exactly what I wanted the conversation to be here. Because what I want you to focus on in the scrum is, instead of looking at the tiniest pictures, because you're going to get way too focused on, oh, well, this prop's arm was down at a 45-degree angle. You can make most of the calls just by looking at the big picture. Now, this is obviously a really dramatic example of that. But what's the big picture of what happens here is white is always moving forward and black is getting absolutely split to ruins. So instead of looking and making sure with a protractor that white is driving straight, you take the wide view and say, wow, white won that scrum. Penalty to white. Excellent. Excellent. All right, so now we're going to look at scrum legal dominance. We've got a Lindenwood match here.
Have this near side here stacked with far back.
So I'm just going to fast forward.
Players,
They
all
reset
players
a little bit,
outside
whatever.
the number 10 jersey, the 15 meters, outside of the 15 meters on the field.
Yep.
So Lindenwood here, quick ball wide, and they
Find
could be
out.
in some space, looking to score early points today. Yeah, BYU, if they've done their homework, they'll know that Lindenwood has some very dangerous wingers. Nick Hardrick, who just made his way back.
All right. So what are we seeing in this scrum sequence? Anybody?
Quick
Well,
ball
White's
wide.
dominant in the push.
Yep. We got a good setup. Nice and stable. Yep, there's maybe a little bit of movement by white. Cool. Big picture, what team moves forward?
White.
And which direction do they go?
Pretty straight. And
Straight
then
up the
a little
field.
turn.
Yeah, yeah, like due north. So if you think of it as a compass, if you're going north-south in the scrum, everything is fine if you start that way. So sometimes you start north-south and then it might twist off. But if the first movement is north-south, we're all good. When you have something that you want to penalize is usually when the scrum goes either like on a wheel or if it's going across. So this, everything's fine by white. Again, if you look too closely, sure, you'll find things, but instead of looking close, I challenge just to look big. White's clearly dominant here. If that ball didn't come out super smooth, you would expect a penalty to white for doing a good job at scrumming. But ball comes out, so we're happy to play away. All right, our third clip, driving across in the scrum. I actually like this because it's a far out angle. And again, moral of the story, we're not focusing on the little things, we're focusing on the big things.
Just to make sure that you can turn it on.
Ball to back here for the Bearcats. Big drive.
So, which way does that scrum go? Which direction? Does it go north-south?
It went east-west.
No,
No, it definitely doesn't. So, if you're the yellow team, you're putting the ball in, that scrum has just gone southwest. So who do you think is at fault when the scrum goes towards, let's say, towards the 7-8 o'clock range? Who is at fault? Any physics buffs in the room?
it's gonna be the side that Amelia's on right now, so this close side.
Yeah, if you think of it like a clock, if the scrum's driving to 7 or 8 o'clock, it's going to be the person starting at 2 who's facing that way, because it's always easier to drive straight. So if the scrum's, let's annotate this. If the scrum is going that way, it's going to be whoever is right here driving that way. It's not going to be the far side. It's not going to be this person, because then they're driving out against nothing. And again, like, we don't have to go too deep into the details. Just know that if, and I'll use a different color. Can I use a different color? Sorry, I haven't used annotate. If it were, for example, this side of the scrum being dominant, the scrum would be going that way. So that's why we like to reward scrums that go straight, because scrums that go straight mean it's equally your two props, your entire front row going straight. But when the scrum's going back towards the blue arrow, it means that person is dominating. And as in this clip, if it's going back at an angle, it means that somebody is driving across, which is an illegal action. So first action is just sideways and back. So that's the kind of picture at the scrum that we do want to penalize, because it's not going straight. Wow, my screen disappeared. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? Think of your little clock, which direction it's going. North, south are happy directions. Once you start going east, west, it's not a very happy direction. Let's speed through it. So what you can control, right, is that setup. Afterward, we're going on the rewarding dominance. Rewarding the legal dominance. Again, if the attacking team's going to go out at one of those like 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock angles, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it's not okay. But if they're going to go 11, 12, 1, we're happy to see that, and we can reward that. And that is all I'm really going to challenge us with scrum. So look at the big picture, not the little ones, because if you start looking at the little ones, every single person is doing something wrong. I promise you. And if you start just trying to identify the tiniest things, you're going to penalize a lot. And you're really just going to be guessing. So, all right. That's scrum. So we're going to go on to line out. What can you control in a line out? Anybody? Spoiler alert. It's the same thing that you can control in a scrum.
Setup.
The setup. Exactly. Positioning. I actually love that too, because that gets really important when we go to a mall, because you can control what you see. But setup, 100%. So I'm going to go through again. This is what I do when I go to a line out. So ball's going to touch. When it goes to touch, you know, you can hope your AR is watching. If you've just got touch judges, you want to watch that ball. Make sure that it's, if there's going to be a quick throw, you're in position. So knowing in law what can prevent a quick throw, anybody wants to post in the chat and let me know what can prevent a quick throw. I would love that. Just drop it in there. What prevents a quick throw from being taken at a line out? Yep, if it touches another person other than the one that took it into touch, there's a new ball. Line out is set. Goes beyond the barrier, I think is a really interesting one, because yes, but also don't be a stickler about the barrier. A lot of those teams have like 5 meter like restraints, like ropes. And just be clear with the team when you go to the pitch whether you're going to say that that prevents a quick throw or not. I personally, if the ball wants to go 20 meters outside of the field and somebody still wants to run after it, get it, and take a quick throw, I'm going to allow it, because that's a pretty strong effort on their behalf. So just be clear. Some people will say as soon as it goes on the other side of the rope, you can't take a quick throw. And if that's what that's where you want to put your line in the sand, then absolutely. So thank you for that participation. We're looking at the ball when it goes into touch. While that's happening, I'm aware of who's standing at the line of touch, 5 meters in. Once I've got a smattering of people there, has to be 2 from each side, but a good smattering will get you, no, line out's formed, excellent. So I'm at the front of the line out while this is happening. I make my mark for the defense. I wait for the front person to come up. Defense, keep everybody on you. I make a mark for the attack, get that front person of the line out there. Attack, here's your mark, excellent. So I leave those 2 exactly where I put them. My first couple of lineouts, I'll take the front. I will say at the higher levels, when you have ARs all the time, I've gotten really used to standing at the back of the line out, but definitely in the club game, I still stand at the front because I can manage so much more. So either stay at the front or run to the back. If you're ever going to run to the back of the line out, don't run between the 2 tunnels, just run outside. I'm going to check the numbers briefly, make sure, look at my receivers. Are they where they're supposed to be? Who are they? We'll talk about that later. Check that my defending hooker is 2 by 2 or close enough. So check, 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 check. Back line, make sure that they're back. Excellent. Now, I'm ready for the throw-in. As I'm looking at the throw-in, my mental process is I look down. I look at the space, and I'm making sure nobody's taking away that space. Once the ball's thrown, I look up. Is it contestable? If it's right above the head, okay. If it's clearly on the outside shoulder, that's fine. So quick glance to see if it's contestable. I look back down to make sure that nobody is taking out the lifters and that player in the air is safe. ball is caught is when I trigger to look back up, make sure that no other jumper is levering on that arm or dragging that player down. And once the ball is caught and is about to be passed back down, that's when I do my quick look to make sure that the back line hasn't come up early. So my setup, down, up, down, out, up, out. Now I don't have that in my head as that little list, but it is something I always do. I always go. Think about creating your own list. What is your little checklist of what are you going through when you go to a line out? If it keeps being the same thing, you'll be more triggered when something wrong happens because you'll be like, and we do this and we do, oh my, that lifter has been taken out in the air. So then you go to the decision-making process, but you get the trigger of something is wrong. Cool. Fun stuff at a line out. We will have clips on line out, but it goes so well with our next piece that we're going to go through this fun facts on maul, and then we're going to go to the clips. As scrum half, yelling and pointing is always a great indicator at any maul. So go ahead, drop in the chat or just tune in. Let me know where might a maul happen on the field. Places more likely to have a maul than others. Yeah, 5 meters out. Inside the attacking 22 if you have a very overconfident team. No, 5 meters out, right? Those 5 meter lineouts. Yep. 5 meters out from the attacking in goal. You might have it 5 meters out from the defending in goal. Maybe. Because, you know, you never know. Teams might want a maul set up so they can get a nice kick. Not 7 meters. What are possible signs that a team is going to maul? Full line out. Yep. They got a lot of people in there. I really like what Ross said. They have a forward at their receiver position. So that's a really good indicator that the receiver is either going to be joining something or be taking the ball, which might mean they do like a peel off kind of move. Yep, and then the jumper comes straight down with the ball. You can start seeing that everyone in the line bunches up a little bit. But yeah, the easiest ones there are they have a ton of people in the line out and their receiver is a forward. The back line looks sad. You guys are killing me. All right. What is the best position to be at a maul as the referee, not as a player? Ross would be like a prop. Where is the best place to stand at a maul when the maul is happening? When the maul is happening, where's the best place to stand? Nobody wants to disagree with John. Everyone wants to listen to that. Yeah, on the attacking side, so you can always see the ball. And if the ball moves, you want to keep moving around that maul, especially if you don't have ARs, because you always want to be able to see that ball and see both sides. So it's really good to do that little like U shape and make sure you're monitoring everything. Even if you have ARs, I still want my own eyes on the ball because that really tells me what's going to happen next. So if we're going to have a maul from a line out, again, you got to stick to your checklist and have a process, because otherwise, like I remember genuinely my first MLR game, I went from line out to maul in my mind 0.02 seconds, and I had zero idea of how I got there. I was like, yes, excellent, we're at a line out. And the next thing I knew, it was something that looked like a maul and everybody was yelling. And I was like, I genuinely don't know what happened because it happened so quickly. So now I'm really diligent about having a checklist, which seems to slow it down. So I can be like, yep, that's done, that's done, that's done. Here we are. Now we're at the end picture. Or like, that's done. No, you just clearly obstructed. That's how the referees get everything, is because they have that checklist and that lets them slow it down. So from someone who's been there, make a checklist. So my checklist, I get to the line out, I'm looking at the attack. What's their setup? Good trigger for me. They've got a ton of people. They've got a forward at their receiver position. Where are we on the field? All right, we're probably going to have them all. So all of my line out checklists, I've got the up, down, out. They're coming down. The first thing, because I've gone through it in the air safety already in my line out, first thing I'm going to look at is the attack and their setup. So you want to make sure that nobody's coming behind and doing our little spoon. We like to call it spooning because that's actually the best description. If you're spooning, you're clearly obstructing. So I'm going to check for the spoon on the jumper. Then I'm going to look at the defense and I'm going to watch if they're going to sack, what's their timing of the sack. Then I'm going to go back to the attack. Once the defense has committed that they're doing them all, excellent. I'm going to look at the attack. How are they transferring the ball? Are they moving forward? Or is that when they like come out, step out, change lanes? Okay, they're moving the ball back. They've got a good maul set up. I'm going to go back to the defense. And that's where I'm looking at them possibly collapsing, swimming up the side, side entries, what have you. But if you want to get everything, you got to have the checklist of like, when am I looking at the attack? When am I looking at the defense? Because you can't watch them all form and be like, oh, well, is the defense going to come in from the side because you've missed your opportunity to look at the obstruction? You've got to hit obstruction first, immediate setup in their sack, changing lanes, collapsing, swimming, side entry. That's my checklist. Happy for you guys to come up with your own. And I will also make a note on the non-compete by the defense. I believe I had a webinar a while back, and what am I going to say about a non-compete by the defense at a line out? Who knows the hill that I would like to die on with a non-compete? Ah, yes. Point 2, defense not engaging in the maul. Don't leave the line out. Chris, you're right there. What am I going to say? They always leave the line out. They always leave the line out. Yeah. So if a defense is going to say, we're not going to compete at the maul, they must stand on the line of touch. They cannot step off of the line of touch. If they step off of the line of touch, it's a penalty to the attacking team. You can part the Red Sea, but not go backward. A very, very vivid way of picturing that. So what's entertaining is teams will, when I say that, yes, we're not going to step off. We're just going to slide apart. I have seen this done successfully once, and it was recently. And it was an international team. So I'm going to tell you right now that nobody's going to successfully do that. If they're going to not compete in the line out, somebody's going to step off the line of touch, and it's going to be a penalty to the attacking team. So, yes. And then also they just end up hitting them all. But awesome. So that is our lovely little maul and line out bits. We're going to go back to advantage because I've got some fun clips in there that we can talk about. We will go with process first. Excellent. So this is our process clip. So first thing you can see, I get the video is not perfect, but first thing you can see from this, where are we? 5 meters out. Awesome. Don't even mention it's Navy. What do we think we're gonna have here? 5 meters out, attacking inside the 22. I bet we're gonna have them all. So going into it knowing we're probably gonna have them all.
Line out throw is good. Maul is formed. Navy's driving. They're on the move. And the
So we start from the beginning here. We've got our referee at the front making the mark, which is really great, making sure everything's set up. Referee then goes to the back. I would say it's pretty dangerous to go through the tunnel, but that's just me. So we got our referee at the back. Still got the space that we want. Excellent. Blue comes in, sets the line out. We've already cued in that we've got a maul situation happening. 6 is here in the receiver. 9's back 10 meters.
line
Team goes up. No compete. So everything in the air is fine.
out throw is good.
Comes down. Excellent. He's not obstructed.
Maul is formed.
We've got a good maul setup. Blue looks pretty good. What do we think about the referee's positioning? Anybody on the referee's positioning?
Good to start. He's at the back of the line now, but he's got eyes on the ball.
Yeah,
Alex.
it's not terrible. Maul starts moving. You're gonna wanna come in around. Yeah, he's trusting. He doesn't have an AR, so he's trusting his touch judge very, very well. So, but you can't see everything, and that's the truth. Is you gotta pick and choose what to see. So our maul's going forward really, really rapidly. Is a great time to get in nice and close. Ball is clearly on this right side. So as a referee, you're going to have to find that. So you would have wanted to run in by this moment. I can draw on this. You would have wanted to come in and be in this kind of area. And then you probably would have stayed here because you would have seen the ball. But then also realizing that you're going to have to come over here so you can see, because it's probably going to be these guys that do something bad at the mall. Excellent. So we keep going. Everybody's legal so far. Gotta get nice and close.
Driving. They're on the move.
Now, you have to determine, has the mall crossed the goal line yet? No, it hasn't. These white players have broken off. You have to figure out if this little contingent, I keep circling with my mouse and that's it. You have to determine if this contingent of players has broken off. So whether that white player is truly hitting the front of the mall or hitting as a side entry. It's not 100% sure from this angle.
Move.
But
And the ball's down, but
the referee struggles to see the grounding because he hasn't come over to the main side. So, though, out of everything said and done, pretty good setup of the mall, great setup of a line out, and everything pretty great here. Nothing clear and obvious, depending on whether those players have broken off or not. So, happy days on that one. All right. Now we're going to go to a line out clip. And remember our process as we're setting up the line out, what we're checking step by step. So again, it's me, I apologize. I've got my defense set. As far as walking into the line out and like teams doing that walk in, I tend to go with the theory that I'm going to set up my line out at the front and go to the back. And if by the time I have gone to the back of the line out and turned around and they are not walking in, I'll have a formal warning that they have to come in. But I give them that block of time because I operate under the theory that I still haven't set up for the line out yet. And so I will give them as much time, but if I'm waiting on them, that's too long. So I go to the back. By the time I turn around, they're walking in. Excellent. We've got another mall situation. Check out where we are. 7's here. 9 probably should be further back, but I'm not perfect. Okay. Throw is contestable. Awesome. Does anyone remember what my second part of the checklist was? We look up because the throw is contestable. Where do I go after up?
Down.
Down. And what am I checking for on the ground?
Spoons.
Oh, not yet. We're still in lineouts.
Check if the jumper's being taken out or not.
Yeah, check if the jumper's being taken out or not. Spoiler alert, what do you think happens? So, we go up. And they're checking the ground. So there, lifter gets taken out early. Unfortunately, it's not the money shot that you can see, but we'll just fast forward a bit. And jumper is still in the air, and you can see by the speed that he falls down. Somebody has taken out his lifter. Trust me, I was on the field. Excellent. So that's what I talk about as a process, because if you're already trying to look at how the attack is setting up, you're going to miss your line out checklist that somebody's getting taken out in the air. Cool. All right. We'll look at good sack for those following along in their own advantage playlist. Again, nice line out setup. So we got a nice tunnel, ball goes up. Okay. So this kind of devolves into a weird situation that we can talk about if you would like to. But just focusing on the actions here. All right, so we're up on the ground, not obstructed. And then we've got the defense taking down the jumper. Does anybody have thoughts or opinions on that? It's okay if you don't. Defense doesn't step out. I know, we love that. So this is one of those interesting scenarios where the defense takes down the front player in this, not a mall yet, obviously, because you need players bound in. So this purple and white player is going for a really nice sack. By the time he sacks, the black player has already passed the ball back. So nothing here is illegal, but this is when you come in as a referee and manage it and you tell black to use that ball, because black clearly has that ball. And if you stay far away, you're going to have this situation where these two guys are going to start fighting. So up goes to ground, sack's good, ball's available. You don't want to do anything over pedantic and say that like a maul had been formed or there's obstruction because he passed it back, whatever. Everything's fine here. Just get in close and tell black to use that ball before stuff like this happens, because that's totally preventable. But what I really like about this clip is it's great timing on the sack. The second he hits the ground, purple and white is immediately dragging him down. So a bit of an opposing clip that I have to this is
And they've been successful there so far. Life does go to the mall. Looks like
so watch this in slow-mo. Up, down, as soon as he hits the ground, this white and blue player is going, it's very funny, it's the same team. I didn't actually notice that. He's going for the sack. But the difference here is he doesn't succeed immediately, and that maul gets a bit of go forward. So because it's not immediate, I would totally understand if you call a maul collapse there, because it's not as immediate as the last one. Is it a maul with only one defender engaged? Anybody know the law definition of maul?
One player from each side engaging with the ball carrier.
Yes.
You only need one.
Yep. You
One
only need
attacker.
one attacker, one defender, and one ball carrier. So typically you need two attackers because that. But yep, 1-on-1. Thank you, Toronto. Yep. So this is one where if you saw that sack as immediate enough, you could say sack is good. Here, I think Life does a good job at staying on his feet, and he starts walking backward, and it's a bit late for me. So I'm probably with the referee here, and I'm calling the sack's too late. It's a collapse. So if we're seeing a sack, we want it to be immediate as soon as the ball's on the ground, hands on the ball carrier, immediately pulling him down. Fantastic. And the last clip we're going to go through is collapse.
Ball get into his hands, see what he can do with it. Not the best conditions for him to showcase his skill, but I'd like to see it anyway. Navy with them all. They get it set.
Should be a collapsing call here.
Yep.
The arm
Ref
goes
got
up.
his arm out for the
Awesome. So
conditions.
what I like about this one is we've got everything all in perfect harmony. We've got a nice maul. They're driving forward. And it goes down because white took it down. Again, if you take what we talked about at the scrum and apply it big picture, what's the picture here? Blue has a good setup. Blue's moving forward. White is under pressure. And everything goes down because white collapses it. So even you can't see that guy on the referee's side, you can clearly see that blue's very beautiful maul has come to a rearing halt. And so the most likely outcome there is indeed that white did something wrong, because blue would never want to bring down their own mole that they're super successful at. Cool. So we're nearing our end of time. Just to recap on a couple of things we talked about. For your restart kicks, know your laws, because they're really weird and really pedantic. And so just make sure you know them. Scrum, get a good setup. That's the only thing you can control. Identify the dominance and then focus on the big picture. Remember, if it's going north-south, 11, 12, 1 o'clock, that's all good enough. It's the ones going at like 3 and 9 that's shearing off in the angles. That's giving you an indication of something illegal. But if everything's moving forward in one strong direction, more or less straight up the field, don't go looking for the little things. Reward that big dominance picture. Line out, again, you can get the good setup. That's something that you control. Work through your checklists so you can get to that outcome. Because if you start skipping around and or you don't have a checklist that you're working with, you're going to miss those things because you're looking way down the line. Mall, same thing, work through the checklist. Look at your field context so you know when is it likely that we're going to enter into a mall. And then just like scrums, focus on the big picture. So if that mall is steamrolling, and like we saw in the last clip, and then suddenly goes down, well, what's most likely the outcome? It's probably that the defense took it down illegally. Awesome. And then I know I had this because I had this meme made up. This is my cheat sheet. Again, just some of the tips and tricks I have. The kickoff, I like to use it as a reset, like a mental reset. Every time I have a kickoff, I'm like, okay, reset on the game. And I'm ready to make a decision right off of the first kickoff. Because too many times I've gotten like way too chill after a kickoff. And then I get to the first breakdown and I'm like, la, 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 la. And I'm not paying attention. Or a kickoff goes directly into Ingle and I just sit there in my mental Rolodex and don't have anything ready. So be ready to make a decision, especially even if that kickoff is straight into Ingle. Look at the big pictures and scrums. If you look at everybody individually, and Ross, you can disagree with me, but everybody's cheating to some level. So that's why you look at the big picture. Because if you're looking at, Ross always cheated, never cheated. If you're looking at somebody's like elbow angle, and their angle could be straight down on their elbow, but that could really not matter. You're going to end up penalizing this person's elbow for being down because someone told you that's a trigger. So just look at the big picture and it'll actually become easier. Safety is really, really important in lineouts. So protect those players in the air, which means get really good at that. Once you go up for the contest, you've got to look down and make sure that nobody's taking out those lifters and those players are coming safely to ground. Then you got to look up again and make sure that the opposing lifter isn't dragging them down. But that's always safety first. So look at that before you start looking at like mall setups. Know your triggers for when a mall may occur. Again, we talked about the receiver being a forward. We talked about the number of people in the line out. We talked about where we are on the field. Those are all triggers. Knowing that even with all those things, without those things, a mall could happen, or with all those things, a mall could not happen. Just know your triggers, be ready. And as you probably saw by this whole presentation, I love a checklist. Frankly, to me, checklist came naturally. So I didn't mentally go in and like write a checklist. I'm more of like realized I had been using one without giving it a name. So my suggestion is go into what you already do and start writing down like, well, what do I do when I have a line out? I blow my whistle and then I do this and then I do this, and start writing it out and then being like, is this in the right order? Should I be adding something else? Should I be doing something? Cool. That is our set piece webinar. So, got it in under an hour this time. I want to thank everyone who jumped on, everyone that jumped on, and I want to thank Ross for texting people to jump on because we were about to do this with like 5 people. So, cool. I'm going to stop the recording unless anybody has any questions that they would love to shout out on the recording.